This conversation is taking place at the DuPont Environmental Center in the Russell W. Peterson Wildlife Refuge.
We're here at the DuPont Environmental Center talking with Delaware's Senior U.S. Senator Tom Carper. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Russell Peterson Wildlife Refuge here. The Urban
That's
Wildlife
here
Refuge.
as well.
200 and some acres.
But so
named
did-
after the guy who's really brought the idea of the riverfront
right.
to me when I was governor.
He and Art DuPont.
Yeah.
Tom, according to the polls, Congress is held in very low esteem these days. The lowest ever since polling was begun. Is that justified, or are people just uninformed?
I'm sure part of it's justified. In fact, there are one or two people I work with who probably deserve lower. How low can you go? Below 6%. What people are sick of is that Washington doesn't act more like Delaware. Honestly. Here, Democrats and Republicans, we like each other, we work together, we work toward consensus and building compromise, we govern from the middle. That's what people want us to do. And what John Carney and Chris Coons and I try to take, just like Mike Castle, try to take to Washington every day, is the spirit of Delaware, the Delaware way. I tell you, John, the thing I've heard more than anything else from people in Delaware for the last several years is, why can't Washington be more like Delaware? Why can't it be more like Delaware? And my hope is with this budget deal, not a great budget deal, but it's the ability to find at least an agreement to, that's good.
I mean, I think you would describe yourself as a moderate. You were part of the Democratic leadership group.
I describe myself, John, as a flaming moderate.
A flaming moderate,
Yes.
My God.
I occupy the radical
do
center.
you get a lot of pushback from the, if you will, the left wing or liberal wing of your own party? I mean, there seems to be some pushback going on. I mean, with the election of Mayor de Blasio in New York City, his unabashed liberal program that he articulated again yesterday as he was sworn in by that flaming moderate William Jefferson Clinton, who seems to have moved to the left since he was president. But oh well. But you know, how do you cope with that? I mean, you're here in the middle doing it the Delaware way, and you get, really conservative Republicans and Democrats pushing you from the other side. How do you deal with that?
What I do when I'm introducing legislation, whether it's a bill or an amendment, I always have invite Democrat and Republican co-sponsors. At the end of the day, while we're going to be able going forward to confirm nominees, most nominees with the simple majority, 51 votes, we're still going to need 60 votes to move amendments, to move major legislation. We've got 55 Democrats and 53 and two independents who vote with us. But in order to get anything done, at the end of the day, you still need 60 votes. And whether you happen to be really liberal in the Senate or really conservative in the Senate, I think at the end of the day, if you're practical, you got to find people on the other side of the aisle to work with.
You mentioned your Homeland Security Committee work. I don't think there's much question that you're pretty safe in the skies today. The security at airports pretty tough. In fact,
A lot
some
smarter,
would say
and a lot smarter too.
Well,
a lot smarter.
depending on the airport, but yes. But I worry about our port here. I worry about rail traffic. I mean, I just went up to visit my grandson at Thanksgiving. Not a lot of security on Amtrak. Certainly not much security at our ports. Stuff comes in and out of there. Not very well inspected. Do you have any plans to tighten that kind of security around?
The way we approach defending our homeland is to try to measure the potential risk, whether it's an airplane, whether it's a passenger airplane or cargo airplane, whether it's a passenger train, whether it's a freight train. We look at the risk that flows out of like a port like Wilmington or a port like New York or Long Beach or Seattle. And we do a number of things. One is assign resources, technology and people in accordance with the degree of risk, the potential loss of life, loss of limb that comes from a disaster. And we allocate more resources in those regards. In places where the risk is small, the risk compared to, say, Port of Wilmington, compared to Seattle or New York, there's not a great reason for a terrorist to come to Wilmington and try to disrupt things with a bombing or whatever. But the idea, if you want to really screw things up, they want to go to Long Beach or go to LA, go to Seattle, go to New York. So we try to allocate the resources in accordance with the risk.
Some folks say that manufacturing, as we've always known it, is dead in this country. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be resurgent. That we've moved to a knowledge-based economy. Do you think that's accurate, number one? And then I'll have some follow-up questions about that.
Believe it or not, one of the dirty little secret, actually a very good secret, but that came out of the recovery such as it is, we lost 5 million jobs in this country between July 1, 2008 and June 30, 2009. We lost 5 million jobs. This year, in the last 12 months, we probably created about 2 million new jobs. Since the recovery began in, say, 2010, we've seen about over 500,000 new manufacturing jobs, new net manufacturing jobs created.
In what areas?
And a variety of, I'll tell you what's driving it, low energy costs. And actually we have all this natural gas, and it's really served as put our manufacturing industry in just a much more competitive place. GE's brought a lot of jobs back here to this country. The auto industry, we're building 9 million cars and selling 9 million cars here, and at the bottom of the recession, we're going to build 16, 17 million. Ford, Chrysler, GM, record profits. And the suppliers that feed them are, big profits.
None of this is very good for Delaware, though. We have high energy costs, and the plants that we had, one is absolutely gone, and nobody seems to want the one that remains.
Well, the governor and our delegation, even John Carney and Chris Coons especially, but we don't give up easily. And I worked for 30 years to save a Chrysler plant, from treasurer right through governor and senator. I worked for 20 years to save the GM plant, and I'm not giving up on the GM plant now. It's an asset. It's one of the things, and when we talk, even today I was talking with folks from other countries about our GM plant. This is a GM plant, as John Carney and Chris Coons, Jack Markell know. This is a plant that had the best labor management relations of any GM plant in the country. That's why they were the last one to be closed on the East Coast. We have an auto terminal right there, a world-class auto terminal. We can export cars, sell them all over the world. We have I-95, 495, 295, go right by the plant. We've got the great rail connections. So you put all that stuff together. What we don't have is somebody who's committed to building vehicles. Although even today, we talk with somebody who would like to. Somebody, it turns out, with a lot of money.
Good.
And we'll see how it works out.
But do you think it's true that you know that getting out of high school is no longer a ticket to a good job, and employers are saying, those kind of people, I have to train them again. It's too expensive. Is the route that we've taken to reform public schools the proper route?
One of the places I used to mentor, just drove by it yesterday, Kumba Academy. It's a charter school right on Market Street. Almost 85 to 90% free and reduced price lunch. Very high levels of poverty. A lot of not many two-parent families. A lot of one-parent families. A lot of kids just maybe live with a relative. I think it was 86% of them are meeting or exceeding the standard. We can do this stuff. We know how to raise student achievement. The key is to make sure we align the incentives right, to spell out what we expect kids to go and do, and focus on what works. Figure out what works and do more of that.
But we don't do a lot of sharing. That's the problem. Kumba's a charter school of Wilmington. They do a good job, but they don't tell anybody.
Well,
and that was one of the requirements of being a charter, is that you share the information. They don't do it.
When in my old role as governor, I was very active in the National Governors Association. They let me be chairman. Let Jack Markell be as immediate past chairman of the NGA. Part of the National Governors Association is called Center for Best Practices. It's a clearinghouse for good ideas. And boy, we would steal one another's ideas. We would share our ideas from state to state, and we need to do that in education as well.
Set an agenda for 2014 for the Congress. 3 items, no more. And tell me why you think they're achievable.
One of them would be to better protect ourselves with a broad consensus on cybersecurity. We have companies from around the world, countries from around the world, that are trying to steal our intellectual property. But the key is, how do we build an effective partnership that involves not just the National Security Agency, not just the Department of Homeland Security, not just the private companies themselves and their IT operations, their technology operations. How do we do it all in a cohesive way? Second, we need to build on a very modest budget agreement that was reached a month or so ago. We've seen the deficit drop from about $1.4 trillion in 2009 to less than half that this last year, and we need to continue to push it down. And I would say the last one, another key economic development and job creation is, we call it infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. I'm looking out the windows here from the Russell Peterson Wildlife Refuge, and you can see I-495, you can see I-95 from here. But we need not only just invest more money in roads, highways, bridges, we need to invest in our rail, we need to invest in ports, we need to invest in airports, we need to invest in broadband, deploying broadband through places that don't have it. Those are really the three things.
But is that sort of the government as employer of last resort approach?
No, I think if you ask most economists, three things we need to invest in, or four things we need to invest in, most economists will say we need to invest in research and development, things that to create technologies that can create products to sell around the world. We need to invest in workforce, skills of our workforce. We need to invest in our infrastructure to enable to work more efficiently.
You see that as
those are
sort of gliding the path for private industry.
Those are the. I like to say the role of government is not to row the boat. The role of government is to steer the boat, and for the private sector and others to actually do the rowing.